Oh dear. Welcome everybody. Welcome to another special episode of the Canary Room. We're on the road. We're on the road actually. It's the closest on the road I've ever done because this man lives a mere stone's throw. Well, 14 milestone.
You'd need to be Tessa Anderson with the javelin.
It's not that far. It is, of course, the wonderful Brian Keenan. Now, this is a show which is 25 years in the making, although the Canary Room hasn't been going for 25 years. But that is how long I've known this chap.
When you were clean shaven, Matt?
Yeah, when I had a waistline and no facial hair. There are pictures somewhere. I've got a picture. I might add the picture on. Yeah,
we've got some at Old Swan.
Yeah, we have. That's where we first met. We met at Liverpool Old Swan Cage Bird Society back in the 1900s.
1800s.
Yeah. We were both a lot younger, less wise than we are now. But look, we've got a fabulous episode in store for you. Brian is going to share his knowledge, which is considerable, of the bird that he loves, which is the Yorkshire Canary. So lots to look at. We're in his birdroom. I've been here numerous times before. It is always a treat. It's always good to spend time in Bry's company. So look, you know what to do, everyone. Grab yourself a cuppa and look, here's mine. And Bry's.
And here's mine.
And Bry's got his as well. We've got double cuppas going on. Grab yourself a cuppa.
Canary cups as well, Matt.
Indeed, yeah. Nothing missed here. And enjoy the show. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, ladies and gents, we're in Bry's room, which is do you know what, Bry? It's a thoughtful room, isn't it? So when you think about the room here, you've got it's bathed in natural light. In fact, there is no artificial lighting in here.
It doesn't exist. I don't have it.
No. So what there is a rather large skylight, which is reflecting off my beautiful fringe, and then you've got the two windows at the front. And the interesting thing, which struck me when I came in, and like all of us, like many bird keepers, Brian, it's fair to say you're a tinkerer, aren't you, when it comes to the room?
All the time. My room is like painting the Forth Bridge. It never stops. So if I talk about the shed, I built this the year that the old National closed down.
2003.
Yeah, so it was 20 years exactly in that case. We'll have to have a party at the cake.
21, it's its 21st year. 2024 it is now.
That's a special now.
It is.
Well, beer as well then. So it's a block built room. It's lined and it's insulated. So it's a solid enough bird room. It used to be a flat roof and it used to extend right to the outside, so it was 24 foot. I soon found that the wind came in across that corner, so that's why I separated the room. Made it smaller in one respect, but I've kept the draft out.
Yeah.
And draft for canaries is no use.
Yeah.
So that was practical lesson number one, if you like. On a darker, dull winter day, I didn't really have enough, and I used to have lighting and everything else, but I didn't have enough natural light because it's only side windows, there's only the two. So that's when the Velux went in, and our good friend John Hughes, he came along and did the business. He's like a little monkey up on the roof. Sorry, John.
If you're watching, John, he means that with great affection.
Yeah, not a gorilla, a monkey. But he helped me out with that, and it's been a godsend. So I have enough natural lights that they're now getting 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. It's early March.
Yeah,
they'll be ready to go in the next fortnight or so, which for me is early. I normally go into April, but the birds are fit. And when we come on to talking about food and the management, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that and why they're ahead of where they would normally be. But the evolution of the bird room and the cages is the next one. Because I had cages down here, right in the far end. I had floor to ceiling, wall to wall, flight, and my son Mike had some foreign birds, the quiet ones that don't shriek and don't eat the shed to pieces, books, parakeets and little quail and tiny little finches, and they all lived there until he got fed up with it, and then I got my shed back.
Yes.
So, but I built fitted-in cages, and I built them in wood, changed that after a short time into UPVC, and that was great. I then got the idea that I like a grill, so I had to adapt the cages. And I had them around this wall and that wall, but I was limited to 60 or so cages. I couldn't use that because of the windows. And in time, they developed some decent wire cages, which means I can get the light through and still use that back wall. So that was why they are there. I liked the fact that they had grills and I could use that for the youngsters. It doesn't hurt the birds' feet, but they couldn't get to the stale food.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll need to change these cages. So this is the second incarnation, if you like, of my built-in cages.
Yeah.
And I've got grills there made out of cake stands, which work.
This man is an absolute genius in that. Resourceful, I'm going to call it, Brian.
Resourceful. There you go.
So, yeah. Cage grills made of cake stands. We will have a look.
Cake stand. Have we got a second?
Yeah. Go on. You go and grab me. I'll talk to the camera for a minute.
Yeah.
He's not joking. I'm going to have a little sip of coffee as well, everyone. But
this is what you need.
He showed me these as a grill, which essentially is a cooling rack. Isn't it?
That's all it is, yeah. The one thing that the Canaries have never managed yet is they've not been able to bake a cake. They can lay loads of eggs, so I could make a cake, but they've never done it for themselves.
See, that's Yorkshire's for you, Bri. Fifes would be not
useless.
No.
Not practical whatsoever. But these work.
Yeah.
It fits an 18-inch cage, give or take. You have to snip a bar out, but other than that, it's a useful thing. Yeah. Having said all that, I like the idea of being able to move cages about now. So I've built some more. I'm halfway through them.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll have a little look in a second at the back wall you have. And one of the interesting things about this, Bri, is the sort of the colour that sets them off, and it's almost, I don't know whether we'll pick it up on camera, but it's almost like a wood grain effect, but it's a beautiful colour.
Yeah, it's called Chartwell Green. It is it's like an apple blossom, really. I like the idea of having colour in the cage, and whether it's yellow, blue, green. I like green because it's a nice warm colour. But it stops blindness, and white reflecting off white. There's no respite for the birds. So if the light's coming in and bouncing around, the last thing you want is blind birds.
Yeah.
So that's why I like a different colour on the back of the cage. The one thing I don't like about the wire cages is there is no back. Having said that, they do make one, but again, it's white.
Yeah.
So I have another slightly different shade of plastic green. It's a willow instead of an apple.
Still in the tree family, Bri.
But yeah, well, there we are. But you can cut it to size, and it's a 2 foot, and it'll clip behind so that I can try to slide out, take the end off, obviously. That goes in, and that keeps the rubbish inside the cage. Because at the back of the cage, you don't want to have to move the cage every time to clean out the back. So that's my next step. And I've got 2 8x4 sheets there, and that will do me 16 to 20 cages. Quite happy with that. That'll be enough until breeding season.
Yeah, so here he is. So that's the room, and it looks in good shape. You've got there is normally a sort of judging stand, isn't there, in the middle of the room that you can.
I've moved the stand out of the way, Matt, and you and I aren't dainty anymore. We were once. Keep saying it, and you believe it.
Yeah. There's photos.
It's out the way.
There are.
Oh yeah, but you can fake those now, Yeah, but normally there's a judging stand. Quite honestly, I can raise these up. They shouldn't be on the floor, but they are just for now. If I raise those up 6 or 8 inches and I put a wooden top on there, slatted, it would be a judging stand anyway.
Yeah.
So, there's another option for me. But
So it is. It's a wonderful room. It's full of wonderful birds, and well, let's have a little chat about them. So, Bry, Yorkshires. Now, I remember first coming round here many years. It must be 20 years since.
Oh yeah.
And they bit.
You still do.
Ferocious little things. But tell me about your love of the Yorkshire, and where did that start, mate?
I've had Yorkshires ever since I became a bird keeper, and I was 8 years old.
20 years.
A bit longer, just a little bit. 73 now, Matt, so that's a long time.
Looks good on it, doesn't he? Looks good on it.
I used to go for country walks. We lived in a little village, and it was open farmland and fields, and I used to go for the country walks most weekends with my parents. And I was trying to sneak up on the greenfinches and sparrows and bits. I never ever caught any, obviously. But I thought, this lad's got an interest. So my dad worked with a guy called Edwin Henshaw, and Eddie was a Yorkshire breeder, and he was at the top of his game at that time. And I ended up getting 3 birds. It was a trio. It was a white cock bird and 2 hens for a Christmas present. They lived in, well, a triple breeder that my dad made, and it lived in our living room. I didn't breed any that year. I think they'd invented television and coal fires had gone out, so it wasn't really that bad, but you know. But from that, they sort of got an interest. So I helped my dad build, it was a little 8 foot by 6 foot wooden shed. It would have taken him a quarter of the time if I hadn't helped. But that became my bird room. And it housed my bike and my cricket gear and my fishing gear and footballs and you name it, as well as the birds.
Yeah.
But my hobby grew from there. So much so that there was an indoor flight. It was a half flight, so from ceiling down to sort of this level. And I put 3 Yorkshire hens and a white cockbird with them. And I bred 16 in 1 year, doing what you shouldn't do.
Yeah. Colony breeding Yorkies.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think there was 9 whites out of the 16.
Wow.
So, you know, it was okay. And I've got cages on the back wall. We'd also got a few foreign finches and bits and pieces. There was a red-crested cardinal, and it was on a flight on the opposite side. It was mad. And you couldn't calm it down whatsoever. And I was a member of Ashton-under-Lyne CBS Club then, and there was a budgie man there. Bill Adams, he was called. And he was a lovely guy, and he bred hundreds of budgies. But he says, I'll show you how we calm birds down. And he grabbed a budgie and he straight into a bucket of water and that's what I did in those days. So I tried it with the cardinal. Didn't work. Bill, whatever you did for your budgies didn't work with the foreign birds.
I hope there's a happy ending to this story and that the cardinal was okay after that.
The cardinal was fine.
Yeah.
It ended up in Bellevue Zoo, in the children's
wonderful.
section.
Wonderful.
Yeah. We got fed up with the foreign finches, so the curator of the zoo was a member called Bill Ransom of Ashton-under-Lyne Cage Race. So I went along to him, Bill, I've got these. Are they any use to? He said, yeah, bring them in. So we took, I don't know, a dozen, 15, and I swapped them for 6 wrestling tickets. So the birds went to the petting zoo, and I went to watch the wrestling. What can you say?
Not a great deal. Not a great deal. So that was really the sort of the Yorkie.
That was my introduction. I went from there because there was a strong CBS scene in those days, and there were only 4 or 5 specialist clubs. I mean, the Yorkies in the heyday had about 12 in the UK. And it's dropped back a little bit now, but they're still there, you know. Some have merged and what have you. But I could do an Ashton, I could do Manchester and Northern Counties, which was a strong club. Stockport was a strong club. We used to show at Reddish, Denton. They were all within sort of a 5-mile striking distance of where we lived. It was all buses and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd take me show boxes on the bus, because you could do that sort of thing in those days, you know. Lancashire had a specialist show. And then I'd go across to the YCC. And I'm talking about the time I was sort of 12, 13, 14 years of age, you know. And you weren't shown as a junior, you were shown in the novice section there, against people who've been in it for years, you know. And that was my introduction to it. Places like Burton-on-Trent, which would have an entry of 200 Yorkies back in those days. And from that grew the Midland Yorkshire Canary Club. And that's still happening now. We're just expanding and forming a new Yorkie club in North Wales.
Brilliant.
And that's, you know, it's unheard of to start and bring a new club in. But there's a group of fanciers that are enthusiastic, and this is Anglesey I'm talking about, under Morris, and it's a good base. So they're going to use the CBS club, but publicise it as a Yorkie club, and it will grow.
Yeah.
And it'll help both them, the local fanciers, and the CBS, and that's the thing, pull it all together.
Yeah.
So you know, it's back to the roots and then come back refreshed with it, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's be a good thing.
No, and I think we've talked for many, many years, you know, our time together at Old Swan and then various different things about the importance of those sort of local CBS clubs and you know, the chaps on Beaumaris, Richard and Arwell and the rest of the lads there are just a really, really good bird keepers, and that's what you need, isn't it? Unfortunately, there are far too few of us who are willing to do the graft to put that thing on.
Work and put it on. That's right.
You know, I know when I was with Bernard Williams and when I was with up with Donald Skinner Reid, you know, looking at some of their sort of artefacts of the clubs, the local clubs that were around here around the turn of the 19th century, with, you know, Everton and Walton and Liverpool and District, and, you know, it seemed there was a bird club every, you know, in every
almost.
But those days are sadly behind us. So the Yorkie's it's been a while in the making for you, mate, and it's fair to say it's taken you all over the world, hasn't it, with your judging?
It has, yeah. I'm well known all over the world.
The infamous Brian Keenan.
But they still invite me back. But I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you meet so many different people from different walks of life that you just wouldn't meet. And I've met some wonderful people in every country I've been to. You can't single one out and say this is better than that because it isn't. They're all bird people, and they're all brothers, really.
Yeah.
And we have, even with language barriers, we've got a lot in common.
Yeah.
And you make yourself with sign language, you make yourself known.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I know my first ever international trip was to Bologna, and that was with.
I remember it well.
That was with you.
70 Shades of Pasta.
And I have great fond memories of that. And of course, most recently in December last year, we found ourselves on a Maltese adventure, the pair of us.
Maltese were great.
Yeah.
You know, I almost brought that cannon home. I was sitting on you. If it had only had that hold luggage instead of just hand luggage back,
you'd have got it back. But I think that's important, isn't it? The birds, whether it's the Yorkies, whether it's the Fifes, it's those friendships that we can build over.
And you learn so much from different people because their way of doing things isn't, you know, it's not as ingrained as our way.
Yeah.
And you do learn. You've got to go with an open mind. But I've taken the way that they are feeding, Colin was feeding his canaries differently than we do over here. But we've got access to the same products.
Yeah.
And you can hear the birds singing away now. And I'm not pairing early, but they are ahead of where I would expect them to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm using that feeding method. Yeah. So that's something I brought back from Malta, and it's working.
And I think that's one of the things that has always impressed me about you, Bri, is you do an awful. I mean, you won't say this, but I will. You've done an awful lot for the hobby publicity officer of the YCC. You've regular scribe to Cage Birds. You had Brian's Yorkshire Canary pages as a website. You've done an awful lot of work to sort of promote and further the hobby. Which is to your great credit. One of the things that I love about you, and I always have, as well as ridiculously good sense of humour, and I hope you pick that up. That you'll watch this show and you'll think those guys are over familiar. It's because we've known each other for 25 years and we're quite similar characters.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has always impressed me has been your willingness to adapt and review and look at new things and take those things on board. And I know in the early days when I didn't know anything about Canary keeping, you were very helpful to me. And then as my knowledge grew, I know that there were things that I'd done and you'd gone, oh, that sounds really good, and I'll pick that up. And that, for me, that you talked about it there, your open-mindedness, I think that was pivotal in the Maltese.
We've got to be. And the reason is nobody does it right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
You don't need to change everything when you're looking. If things are going well, why would you change? But you always think at the back of your mind, I could do something slightly better.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do is to give the birds what they want to eat, because they will eat it.
Yeah.
And one of our guys wrote on one of the internet forums last year, my birds are wasting an awful lot of egg food, soft food. I was like, you know what, you're right. Because the amount that you do waste and throw away because it sours and all the rest of it, there must be something better. And I believe that something better is the food stuff that I found in Malta. A couple of products, and I think you're using them as well.
Yeah.
The powdered dry egg food is something that has definitely brought the birds forward. I use the breeding preparation.
Yeah, the Unifeed,
The Unifeed breeding prep. Just a finger drawful, and you see the bird and they'll peck it. They won't scatter it, because they know it's all the same. So if you notice my seed hoppers, it's just plain Canary, little bits of mix, but that's probably a week, fortnight old, something like that. So again, there's no reason to scatter it. What the Unifeed does is it's got enough additives and all the vitamins and protein and so forth to keep the bird's body in good condition. They immediately, the droppings change, and you can tell if a bird's got the squitters, you know there's something wrong.
Yeah.
These birds are doing less droppings, and they're dry.
Yeah.
They're firm, they're black and white.
Yeah.
So you can tell the well-being is there, and that's through the Unifeed for the last, a bag. I keep 60 or so birds. That bag for me lasted 6 weeks. So although it's an expensive product, I'm saving a fortune on seed and soft food.
Yeah.
The seed, I'm feeding that seed hopper once a week. Not every day. And it used to be every day. Seed's £40 a bag.
Yeah.
So again, I'm saving on the seed. The soft food I'm not throwing away. I'm saving on the soft food.
I used to say, and I know Keith Ferry, if he's watching this, will concur that the garden birds are of bird breeders are some of the best well-fed birds ever.
I've got some colour-fed sparrows coming. October.
Nice little orange hue on them. Brilliant stuff. So I think the Unifeed is certainly something which has worked, and we know our good mate Chris Molyneux from Pet Source
supply the Unifeed
is bringing it in.
The one good thing about it is it's a new product, but there are already lookalikes coming along.
Yeah.
They're not going to be developed in the UK, but they are going to be brought into the UK.
Yeah.
So at the minute, it's been here for last 2 years or so, Unifeed. It's always been hard to get hold of. Chris has made it a lot easier because he does keep his stocks up, and good luck to him for that, and a lot more people are buying it. But there are other products, and they will be cheaper.
Yeah.
So we'll have continuity of supply, we'll have a choice of supply, and that's all for the good.
Absolutely, and that's always one of the things, isn't it? And anyone who's sort of thinking about changing their sort of feeding programme as you've done. I know we spoke at great length in Malta with Colin and the lads over there, and they'd seen the success of it.
Absolutely.
But it is about that continuity of supply, and it's why people like Chris and what Chris and Brad can do there, and keeping that continuity of supply is really important.
That's really important. Yeah, and the good guys because if they've not got it in, you'll get a phone call a couple of days later. It's in now. Come and get it.
Yeah.
And what more can you ask?
Yeah. No.
You know?
No. Good
Let
stuff.
me show you something while we're on about music.
Go on. Hang on a second, everyone. He's gone out of camera again. What's this? What?
Sorry.
It's a magic jar.
This magic jar is my old soft food.
Right.
It's 50% rusk. It's 50% soft food. It can be anyone's. And then I throw in a little bit of seed and bits and pieces. Diatomaceous earth is in there, and it keeps the crop and the gullet. I would use that in the peak of breeding time twice a day.
Right.
So, and it makes 3/4 of this bowl. In here, the way you mix Unifeed is you take a little bit and you put an equal amount of water to it. So there's my measuring scoop.
Do you know what we're going to do? I'm going to get another camera. I'm going to pause it here because I'm getting another camera so we can zoom in on this. Okay. Right, Bri. We're back. We're back now, everyone. We're back on. We've got the second camera here, which is picking up Bri's hands. So go on. Sorry, you were saying, mate.
This is my super chef. So I'm putting that amount of Unifeed.
Yeah.
And the same amount of my old mixture.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that specifically to cut down the Unifeed.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the birds to be so fit that they're ready to leave the youngsters at a fortnight.
Yeah.
And that's a real danger.
Yeah.
All you do is you put that into the bowl. You put an equal amount of water in it, and you just leave it for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you end up with a cake. So if you just scrape it across, you'll see it grows you straight across there. So you can see that it's still relatively damp.
Yeah.
But you can see the volume that's coming out of it.
Yeah.
I put that in just to dry it off a little bit.
And that's just porridge.
Straightforward porridge oats. Supermarket, cheapest they've got. And we all know what this is, pearl. When they're actually breeding, I'll also give them sprouted seed. And that will go on the top of the mix once I've mixed it.
Yeah.
So, no additives, nothing else. Just mix it away there. Okay.
Smells great, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? It's a lovely mixture, and the birds will go straight to that. And that's from 3 of those. Now, I was using that to get twice that volume. I've used 1, 2, that much.
Yeah.
In total.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
So no, and I think when you look at that, if I just tilt it up to the camera there, you'll get a little see of it. Yeah, it smells good. It looks good. The most important thing is
the birds eat it.
It sounds good.
It sounds good
because they sound in really, really, really good fettle. And they look in really good fettle as well, Brian, don't they?
They're in good feather. They're bouncing all the way through. You've been hearing the birds sing away.
Yeah.
Even the hens sing at times, and I'm known for singing hens. Unfortunately.
Always a joy, the singing hen.
Especially on the judging stand. But no, this is good. I think that the savings that you're making from not having to buy additives, the savings that you're making on seed, that you're not throwing away, Unifeed's going to pay for itself.
Yeah.
It's twice the cost of normal egg food. That will come down, I'm sure it will, when all the lookalikes come in. And as long as the quality's there, then why not?
Yeah.
It's an Italian product. The people who came from that company have already set up a second company at a fraction of the price, which the Maltese are using.
Yeah.
That's the product that they're using. At the World Show, there were different Spanish products again, the same sort of thing. So they're there. You've just got to get here.
Yeah.
You will.
And they will. One of the things, Bri, which I think is often, the Yorkshire is it's one of the bigger types of canary.
Yeah.
One of the things which I think can sort of put people off at times is when it comes to keeping some of the bigger varieties, whether that's the Norwich, whether that's the Yorkshire, or whether it's the Border, many breeders, and I include myself in this, are reliant on feeders.
Yeah.
So having a sort of almost two sets of birds in a room, which can be quite frustrating, because you've got birds that are there just to sort of rear other birds for you, and I have new colours which I use to help Fia to rear my.
I thought that's what the Fifes were doing for you.
Bugger off. We've had this joke for 25 years.
It never grows old.
It doesn't. It never grows. It never grows old. But anyway, one of the things, the first thing I said to you when I came into the room is, "Where's the feeders?"
Gone.
And you have created and I know this is not easy to do. You have created a stud of self-rearing self-rearing Yorkshires,
Yeah.
of a show standard quality, which is no mean feat. So
Well, there are tricks.
okay,
So you're right. You need to work at it. There are several different factors at play. The first is, I have had feeders in the past. I've never used them out and out as feeders. I've used them as a backup. So I've never kept 200 hens or things like that. I've limited it to maybe half a dozen. As pairs, because two smaller birds will pump the feed into, and the Yorkshire's a growing bird. By the time it's leaving the nest, it's as big or bigger than a mosaic anyway.
yeah,
Or any of the other smaller birds. It could be any. Other varieties are available. But I've never used them out and out just as that. They've just been to get me out of jail. Now, my Yorkshires will rear, and the trick with that is having them fit enough to breed in the first place, and not overfit, which is back to the way I'm feeding now and not getting them beyond that certain point, because they'll walk away from the chicks and want to lay eggs again.
yeah,
The second thing is, if you're going to go down that route, and all the old-fashioned fanciers, if they were breeding Norwich, they kept Norwich.
yeah,
They may have kept Borders, which were a lot smaller then, bigger than the Fife is now, but they were smaller than the Border is. They may have fostered, switched a few eggs around, but it wasn't common. So they could do it, and the old Yorkie people, they could do it, but again, it was a smaller bird. So you'll find that in a bird room, you have different types of feather. You have larger birds and smaller birds. It's the smaller ones that work. The larger ones will lay eggs. Some of them exceptionally will rear, but they're never as good as the more active, shorter feathered, closer feathered, and hence small. It's the same frame.
Yeah.
Visually, they look smaller.
yeah,
So I've got some smaller hens in here, and I know that although they're bred the right way, they're not going to produce necessarily my best birds. They may produce something. So their job is to take the eggs from my better birds, and they will rear.
Yeah.
My better birds will still get a go, and my birds will lay three nests of eggs, if you like. So they'll all get at least one nest to rear. The chick doesn't know whether it's been reared by its mum or a foster mum.
no,
Or whether it's been reared by a mosaic or a Yorkshire or a Norwich. It just doesn't know. But if it's a homebred bird, it's used to your management, your conditions, and that's the trick.
Yeah.
You can buy a good cock bird a lot more easily than you can buy a good hen.
Yeah.
So you've got to breed your own hens,
Yeah.
and that's the key. If you do that, however you do it, it's immaterial.
Yeah.
But you've got to do it.
And I think
For
that's sort of important, isn't it? I know. I remember one of the founding fathers of the Fife Canary, Walter Lumsden. I remember speaking to him on the phone, and he said, breed good hens. And that was a sort of foundation of...
You didn't ask him if there's anything worn under the kilt.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah. No, I've been warned about that. But I remember him telling me, very, very, very early on about, keeping good hens. And one of the things, I guess, Bri, is when you think about the hen. I want to keep calling them Norwich. They're not Norwich, are they?
I hope not.
They're Yorkies. They're Yorkies. I think one of the important things, like you say, it's not. They don't know. The young don't know what they're being reared by. But one of the things I've found, and I don't know whether that you have, is that the new colours are slightly flighty, or they can be. And one of the sort of frustrations that I've often had in using flighty feeders is that can translate a little. It almost seems to translate a little bit to the young. And the last thing you want is a flighty Yorkshire.
Well, you don't want the young jumping the nest too early because they can't survive. They may not even find their way back to the nest to roost for the night time. But no, we need to train. There's no point in having a good bird if it won't behave itself in the show cage. I had a wonderful bird this year, and it'll win its class. It'll get, and it's had 2. I've only shown at 3 shows. It was second best twice. It should have been best twice, and it started bouncing around. Now I know that's my fault because it behaves perfectly here. But as a show, it's somewhere else. Let me have a look because it's fit enough to do that. I'll live with that. I don't mind second best.
No. And talking about the sort of the success on the show benches, it's fair to say over the last few decades, I'm not going to put a number on the number of decades, Brian, but
you can't count that long.
there's been a few decades in which you've kept Yorkies. You've had your fair share consistently of success, and for me that speaks great volumes of the sort of stockmanship in that you're there or thereabouts consistently year in and year out.
The way I breed my birds is perhaps different to the way other people do. I keep more birds than I need to keep, and I keep if I like a bird in the nest, invariably I'm going to like more than one bird in that nest. Now you don't know whether the best bird is going to rear the best chicks, or it could be its brother or its sister. You just don't know that. So if you're going to keep birds, then you're working in families. So, and the other thing you don't know is canaries die very quickly. And if you've just kept one, and I'm going to breed this bird all the way around the room, that's great in theory. But lose it next week and you've lost your whole line. So brothers and sisters have a big part to play. And equally, if you work one bird everywhere, what on earth are you going to pair the youngsters to? Because they're coming back and they're half brother, half sister. And next year, they're even more closely. And all of a sudden, you've no vigour. And that's why you need an outcross and hybrid vigour. So I don't work that way. I work in family groups, and it may be the brother that produces the best. It may be the sister. The bird that was winning consistently for me this year, say won 2 shows, its brother won the 3rd show, was best in show. To me, it's the worst buffcock I've got in the room. I've got 8 buffcocks here. But it was chosen as the best Yorkshire. I also had 6th best bird at that show, that same show. A guy came in here, he says, "What's that? Is that bird there? What's that?" He said, "That's tremendous." I said, "It's better than the winner, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah." Well, it didn't behave on the day.
And
it's the same family.
And that's
the whole thing.
And that's often the case, isn't it, with showbirds? We know ourselves. We've just done an episode with Gerald, and one of the things he talks about is that sort of when he's looking at the evaluation of the birds, he does it in a stock cage. Because that's when they're
at home, they're relaxed, and you can see that, and that's perfect. I mean, that's why we all have show benches, so you can put them in a show cage and training cage next to each other. And that's ideal because they are relaxed. And as you say, grab yourself a couple and spend a day with them or whatever. You need to do it. But when it comes down to the pairing and the breeding, I run my cocks with 2, maybe 3 hens. They all get a chance of that. But I don't know which of those cocks will go on to 3rd hen, 4th hen, 5th hen even. You just don't know.
No.
Until the hen's ready. And I run the cock in, the mate, and pull him out, and his job's done. It's as simple as that. And I do that until he's laid his 2nd egg. But you just don't know. Because if it's your best bird, it's a show bird you're looking at. Do showbirds produce showbirds? Or do stock birds produce showbirds? So you've got to think about it a little bit canny. Watch the feather. You want good feather, you want bad feather. because it's a blend.
Yeah.
And we are mixing the cake. We're back to the food again now, but we are mixing the cake.
Yeah.
And we just want a good outcome at the end of it.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? You know, when you look in a room at birds and you'll look at the sort of the visual qualities of the birds, you are looking at those. You know, A, you want birds that are as close as possible to the model. B, you want birds then that mix and blend well. Yeah. And you know that, you know, it's not the selection process. For me, it's one of the most exciting things of the season is the sort of the pairing up process, and, you know, looking at and then seeing the chicks come out the nest and thinking, I got that one right.
That's right.
That for me is
exactly
what
right.
is what the sort of the hobby and the breeding is about. But you talk about those component parts, and within the families, you'll have those component parts that you need to keep the stud moving
You've got
forward.
to keep it moving forward. You may have 2 or 3 different lines, and we've all got that, and all of a sudden you'll bring them together for a specific reason. I bred a lot of green birds last year, and I've specifically got rid of a lot of them as well, because I don't want a miner's lamps so I can see the birds in the cages. I've kept a few because they are a good, vigorous bird. When we're allowed to sell abroad, they want the green birds because they believe they're a stronger, healthier bird than the clear, and they are. They're closer to nature in that respect. But you don't want a whole room full of them. So I've made a change, and I'm working more on the clear birds line. But within that line, there's going to be similar blood.
Yeah.
And that's the trick.
Yeah.
Keep that same blood. Keep it working.
Yeah.
You need to dip into something else and get that hybrid vigour.
Yeah.
But if it's halfway to begin with, then, you know, you're more likely to get success the first time round.
Yeah, so you're kind of de-risking it, aren't you? You've got the outcross that you need in your own room, and ultimately, when you've got a room which is as wonderfully appointed as this, then you've got the size and you've got the scale.
If you keep a lot of birds, you compare them all.
Yeah.
You've just got to go with an open mind as to why.
Yeah.
One of the birds I was going to pair green to green this year. She's a really good hen. This is her 2nd year, and I put it to a green bird. A pal of mine came over from Ireland. He says, "You're just going to breed the same." And I thought, well, yeah, that's the idea in one respect. He said, "I'd pair it to this," and he picked on that cockbird. He said, "I'd pair it to that." He said, because it's different enough, it's carrying the right feather for that hen, and it's such a long bird, you're going to change them slightly. I thought, you know what, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So she's getting both cocks now.
So round 1 and round 2 are very much taken care of. And one of the interesting things with Yorkies, and you mentioned it about, you know, it being a 2nd-year hen, do you find increasingly that the unflighted cockbirds are a little bit unreliable? Is it still the case that you're waiting for that 2nd year till they're flighted, till they really perform, or is that not the case so much anymore?
I used to believe that, and I've been taught a lesson by a novice, and a new novice that you know, Russell.
Yeah.
Russell's had birds from me. He's got birds from different sources, not a lot of different sources, and those are related sources anyway, but they're coming together. And I let him have the bird this year, and it was bred in June. And yesterday, 3 chicks hatched off this bird. It's a cockbird. Now it will have fertilised those eggs in February, so it would have been 8 months old. In my mind, I don't want to pair a cock unless it's 10 months.
Yeah.
Because I want that fertility, and I don't want to waste a good hen on it. He's gone straight in, 8 months old, and there's his chicks. So I'm changing my views on that if the bird's fit enough, it's old enough.
Yeah.
So it's going to do it. Yeah, and why shouldn't it? But again, he's using the same feed.
Yeah.
They're getting all that stuff, and the body is absorbing that, and it's got what it needs.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be fit enough to breed. Job done.
Yeah, no, it's making a difference in that sense. And when it comes to the sort of, you know, the number of birds that you've got in here, is it fair to say? I know, talking to Keith, he prefers a sort of, you know, obviously he looks at the the feather and the pedigree and all of those things, but he prefers an unflighted bird with a flighted bird as part of his pairings. Is that something similar that you adopt in here?
I try to do that certainly in the first nest.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's the male that's the flighted or unflighted or the female. It makes no difference. And I've kept more or less the same balance of adult hens to young hens. I've got one 4-year-old hen, and we'll look at her afterwards when I remember which cage she's in.
We'll find her, don't worry.
A guy came in and said, "What do you think of that hen?" He says, "That's a lovely unflighted hen." I said, "She's the oldest bird in the room. She's a 4-year-old hen." I've got 2 3-year-olds. The rest of them are last year's or this year's. And they're here on merit.
Yeah.
So the birds that have worked anyway, the birds that I want to breed from, or maybe it's an odd bird that I didn't breed from, but I do want something from, and we'll go that way.
Yeah.
One of the tricks I've done, I've close run my birds for a number of years now, and the COM colours, because we buy them through YCC.
Yeah.
And we follow the COM colour pattern.
So red this year.
Red this year, yeah. But the numbers, if I get 40, I'm happy, but I can hold about 80 youngsters, and I consistently produce that many. My rings in year 1 are from 0 to 99.
Okay.
Year 2, they numbered 100 to 199, and this year I'm on 500 to 599. And I do that because when I'm working my pairings out in the dark winter months when you haven't got time in the shed, it's only one number. I've never got the same number.
You see?
You don't need a red ring and a yellow ring and a blue ring or whatever it might be. You just need a number. Next year I'm back to 0. But there won't be many that have got 0 to 99 as a 6-year-old bird or a 7-year-old then.
Yeah, you know?
No. So yeah, that's a little trick.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. We've gone to the other side of the room, everyone. Just to change the scenery, isn't it, Brian? Just to change the scenery. And one of the interesting things actually is that right on top of these cages here, and the birds are still steady as anything. I'm slightly concerned the one behind me is going to bite me.
He's coming to the bars now.
Yeah.
Oh, just lean back a minute.
Listen, I'm not as tasty as Unifeed. We've just been having a little giggle off camera, but some of the pairings. We're going to talk about a couple of pairings that you'll put together this year, and we'll have a look at those birds as we're talking through the magic of editing. But one of the pairs you were saying, which is a pair to will be sort of straight behind us. We've got a buff cock and a yellow cock, and those are the birds that did well for you on the show bench. And you're going to put the parents.
I am. It's something I don't normally do. I like a pair, but I would then change it because the youngsters, although I like them, I'm going to improve them. But because I pair cocks to more than one partner, and it's the cock that I work on more than the hen in that respect, generally speaking anyway. But obviously, I've had 2 birds that I've shown at 3 shows. I've had 2 second bests and a best. Out of 2 brothers. I've got to go with that pair again.
Yeah.
And the father was a clear buff cock. It was a stock bird, but a big, strong, too much feather on him. So the hen I used complemented him. It was a similar line, so it was coming down the same way. But again, she was a slender, much more sleek, better feathered bird. Good leg, good drive. You don't see that in New York this time of year because they're all pulling themselves out just because they're too fit.
Yeah.
But that was the pair, and I got, I think, 7 off them over the 2 nests. The hen laid eggs all over the cage. I picked them up and I gave them to another Yorkie, and another Yorkie ate them. Not even the mosaics because they were busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope she can find the nest this time. Give it a go anyway.
Fingers crossed she does find the nest. And then looking at the lads behind us, there's a yellow cock.
Well, this is the yellow cock that won second best at 2 shows, and that's one of the sons.
Yeah.
The buff cock above him was best at our winter show, and that's the second nest brother. This is the uncle. It's the full brother to the father.
Yeah.
So again, there's another cock there, which is the full brother to those 2 winning birds. There's another one here, that's another full brother to the 2 winning birds. So I've a lot of that line. I think I've got 9 cockbirds, all of that carrying that same blood.
Yeah.
This is one of them. This is last year's unflighted, again very late bred. I didn't pair it up last year because again it was July, August bred, so he never got a chance.
Yeah.
But I've held on to him, and I'm going to use that bird and see where he comes. It's tremendous leg. He tapers down. That's one thing you don't get in a buff cock normally. That carrot shape and driving down.
Yeah.
But he does it.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're going to go for and see where we get.
Fantastic. And then the hens, is it sort of cocks on this side of the room, hens on the
That's the way
other?
I've got it at the minute.
Yeah.
So the hens are sort of, the cocks have got, really nice sized cages. The hens are in doubles at the moment as well, giving them a bit of
I mean,
extra flight.
it's a 3-foot double for the hen. It's a 2-foot single for the cockbird there. I can pull slides on that and make it a larger cage, so you can join these cages together, plastic cages.
Yeah.
And these can go in one 5-metre strip or 4-metre strip, whatever it is. So I've got plenty of flight space. This is the hen that was sorry, I'm off shot there, but
I'm back, everyone.
He's back, everyone. Yeah. Here he is, wandering around his room. Alan Wicker over here, doing his travels.
I like to see the birds, I get up and close and
Listen,
personal.
let me talk to you about the wonders of this technology. You talk about the birds, I'll film it in a minute.
Film it. I'm getting the hang of it.
You are. Yeah, we're nearly the end of the episode, everyone. He's just about got it.
Yeah.
So there's a hen over there, a variegated yellow hen.
Yeah, variegated yellow hen. She's the mother of the good birds, so that's the same pair.
Yeah.
That we'll try. And I don't think she'll get a different partner because she's produced the goods with that one.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got one that might do the job, but it would be a slight risk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And really, realistically, you don't need to take that risk, do you?
I don't with that particular hen.
No.
She's not a wonderful, I wouldn't show her. She's not that sort of a bird, but she suits the partner.
Yeah.
She's long, she's the right feather, everything that I need. I've got a sister to her, so that will go to the second buff cock. So it's the same pairing, but the sister hen and the brother cock, if you like. So we're doubling up that way.
Now, what hasn't gone unnoticed as we come towards today's episode is that Bry's got his little check shirt number on, especially.
It's especially for you, Matt.
Especially
I didn't
for
want
the
you
occasion.
To feel you're the only one in the world who's got a check shirt.
I've gone small check today, everyone. Bri, before we wrap up today, one of the things that really impressed me when I filmed the YCC show, year before last, I think it was now, was the respect. The Yorkie is the gentleman of the fancy, and the sort of the fanciers at the show were very, very much the sort of the gentleman of the hobby, and there was a lot of congratulations. There was no. It was a lovely atmosphere, and that's important, isn't it, for the Yorkshire to continue it?
Very important, that. Yeah. I mean, most of the people in that room have known each other for a good number of years, and that's what you get at a specialist club. So you're competing with friends.
Yeah.
And if you win one day and I win the next, we're not going to fall out over that. That's great. That's part of the hobby. It makes it go round. There are some people who don't, go with that. They want to win all the time, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
We're all competitive animals to a degree, but you keep birds not to win on the show bench. You keep birds because you like the birds.
Yeah.
And it's here in your room where you see the best of them, and it's here where you spend more time with them as well. So there's no point in falling out with someone at a show.
No,
Come back home and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the key. And for anyone who is thinking about Yorkshires. If today has given you a taste of Yorkshires, then it's important, isn't it? The YCC, which has it's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook.
It's also on. It's got its own website.
It's got its own website. With a new website we're about to launch within the next few months or so. And it will be a good professional website. The other one was, built in the infancy of websites, and it's not been updated for several years because we knew we've got something better coming. Yes, we've got Facebook. You need to manage Facebook. You need codes of conduct, and we've not put that together yet, but we will.
Yeah.
Because Facebook's great if it's used correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as an environment for promoting the hobby, it can be great, but it relies on people.
Common sense.
Yes, common sense. Good common sense. And the final thing before we go, there's two things that I'm observing in the room. One, I can see at least 2 white Yorkshires.
Yep.
3 altogether.
I can't see the other one, but I'll
It's on the floor somewhere.
I said at least 2. He's off again. Alan Wicker's off again.
Back.
What I can't see, Bri, is any cinnamon.
No, I haven't had cinnamon for years.
Right.
It's difficult to get a good cinnamon. And the reason for that is the feather quality of the cinnamon, it's a finer feather. So it doesn't lie. It lies very well. You get a lovely quality bird. But you tend to get a slimmer, if you like, more elegant, but perhaps a little bit finchy faced because it's not got the bulk behind it because the feather depth, the texture is different. I will get some cinnamon at some point, but I've not had it for 20 or so years. I use green birds and variegated birds to control the feather in that respect.
Yeah.
But it's worked, One day I'll get cinnamon back. I like a cinnamon myself.
Yeah.
Not there today.
No. Good stuff. Well, listen, it's been, as always,
pleasure.
an absolute pleasure to spend time.
Don't wait another 25 years now. Come again.
Yeah. I get a feeling when this episode goes out that it will attract an awful lot of views from this country and from far. If you are interested in Yorkshires, you will find out more from the YCC. Bri, it's always a pleasure to spend time in your company, whether
too,
that's
young man.
in a bar or whether
In a football ground.
or in a bird's room.
There we go.
Thank you for your generosity, your time, and as always, doing everything that you can to promote this fantastic hobby. So much appreciated.
Thank you very
mate.
much. I've loved it.
Bless you. Right, everyone, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Why on earth wouldn't you want more of this in your life? From Mr. Keenan and from I.
Good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.